Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing, testing, testing. Testing, testing, testing. Testing, testing, testing. Testing, testing. Testing, testing.
We've got one player who's not out, so you need to know his name.
James Licorice, number 21. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Hello everyone and welcome to game week 4 of the 25-26 Slater and Gordon Championship, where you join myself, Ryan Sipple, alongside Lucas Veza O'Brien for the second game of the day, which will be contested between Altrincham and Nottingham Forest. Let's go through the squads quickly before we bring you the action live. Scheduled for a 10:40 kickoff, so we're going to be slightly delayed, hopefully not by too much. Altrincham have Jack Johnson, James Simpson, Jack Hassan, Daniel Holt, Jake Hudson, Joey Levine. Mason Davies no longer plays for the club since joining Manchester United. And for Nottingham Forest, they have the following: Gary Meakin, Aston Walls, Jack Bossenquet, Toby Maurice, Riley Priestley, Finley Cooper, Matthew Frost and Ben Rogers. How are you, Lucas?
I'm okay, thank you, Ryan.
A very good point against Teesside Steel.
Beautiful point.
Obviously, we sadly had a load of technical difficulties with regards to the stream and commentary, but I was still watching. Assessing the first 5 minutes, I thought it was going to be a long game for yourself and Manchester City, but you weathered the early storm and in the end almost looked the better of the two teams.
Yeah, that was a good game for us all personally. With our new team, I would say that is the best I've seen us play with our new team.
I wouldn't disagree. I wouldn't disagree at all. So thank you to everyone that's tuning in. Altrincham versus Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest rooted to the bottom of the Slater and Gordon Championship standings. And when you're looking at the bottom of the table, Hull and East Yorkshire, who were playing the same time as you earlier, Lucas, a fantastic 2-1 win over West Bromwich Albion Baggies. So they have now got a little bit of daylight between themselves and the bottom position, being Nottingham Forest, but they're going to want to try and get above yourself, Manchester City, in 10th, because we know the bottom two positions of the division result in relegation, but of course those relegated teams are invited to enter the 26-27 playoff, which is scheduled for Saturday, June the 6th. When we're assessing Altrincham, they're in 7th with 19 points from their opening 14 games, so no real threat of any of the jeopardy spots at the bottom, but they have lost a little bit of momentum with some key player transfers in the winter. But it's a fantastic opportunity for some of their newer squad members in Jack Johnson and James Simpson to really influence things. You've obviously played alongside James Simpson for many seasons. Tell me what he's good at.
He's an up-and-coming talent. Trust me, he gets a good connection on the ball every time. You know, the last few seasons, he scored some very important goals for us. And when these two teams met in the WFA Cup, Altrincham went 2-0 down and ended up winning 4-2. And James registered a goal and assist on his debut. That shows how talented he is just to do that on his first game in a new team.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all, and he's got a starting spot here to face Nottingham Forest. You'd probably, based on form, based on momentum, favour Altrincham in this one, but Nottingham Forest, despite their placement and point accumulation, have shown signs of positivity across the 25-26 campaign. Pete Westmoreland is in the centre, gets the thumbs up from the keepers and blows his whistle to get things underway here in the Slater and Gordon Championship. You're joining myself, Ryan Sipple, and Lucas Veza O'Brien for the action live. Would you say Altrincham favourites in this one?
Yeah, their last two games, Altrincham have won 4-2 and 4-0. So we will hopefully get a high scoring game. Now Johnson just taking a free kick, sends it to James, picks it back off to Johnson, but James just couldn't keep it in.
So to go through the squads that start, the familiar Jake Hudson in goal. As Joey Levine is going to test the defence early. Would have liked to have seen him go for goal there. Sometimes you need to be a bit more selfish because James Simpson hadn't made up the ground up the court. So they've got Jake Hudson, Jack Johnson in the centre, James Simpson and Joey Levine, all starting with a J, and Jack Hassan as well on the bench. So somewhat of a tongue twister. And for Nottingham Forest, Toby Maurice, Ben Rogers, Riley Priestley and Finley Cooper, as Jack Johnson just plays it into James Simpson, trying to get those triangles going. It's very condensed into the 180 of Jack Johnson across to Joey Levine. I don't think he was quite expecting it, but really nice passage of play nonetheless.
Getting an applaud by the coaches on the sideline. A beautiful piece of play that there was. They will be hoping to keep it up, but lovely ball. The Riley Priestley now just to take it up the pitch. Johnson gets past Priestley, the keeper. Keeper just couldn't find Priestley on the other wing.
Yeah, it's an open game in the opening 2 minutes. Live on Court 8 at the same time. GBG Saracens take on league leaders Nottinghamshire. But here, Altrincham looking to inflict some early damage, slightly too condensed on that occasion, but that's always the reality when you've got two players. I think this is only their second ever weekend playing alongside one another in the National League. For Jack Johnson, this is his first season at this level, so you're going to need to give them that grace period to develop the chemistry and that shared understanding, but there's definite green shoots from what we've seen in game week 3 and the start of game week 4. As Ben Rogers into Finley Cooper, locked up by James Simpson.
And now James Simpson just battling with Rogers.
Yes, good work from James Simpson just to keep it in the Forest half. He's going to now put some pressure on Toby Maurice. Back to Riley Priestley, who takes it in reverse. Jake Hudson, mainly a spectator in the opening couple of minutes.
He's able to keep this in.
Pete Westmoreland and Lee Brennan come to the decision that the ball had gone out.
Johnson just telling his team where they want them.
I would like to see Riley Priestley be a little bit more assured and brave with that pick-off. But Forest still have possession. Nice switch of play, likewise from Riley Priestley, but doesn't have the power to locate Finley Cooper, who was waiting to capitalise in front of myself and Lucas. Ben Rogers to take into Finley Cooper. Slightly disappointing that, because there was nowhere there to receive, so any flick off Finley Cooper was always going to go down into this top or bottom right hand corner. Jack Johnson into his 180, fires it out the court. Good work from Ben Rogers, who's communicating his intent and his instructions with Finley Cooper. Obviously when Gary Meakin's on the bench, Ben Rogers, the vice captain, takes that role and responsibility as leader.
He's a very strong player, and I think he's very good at utilising it.
Yeah, I think it's fairly, you'd have a unanimous verdict as to who Nottingham Forest's most competent, qualified player is, and many people would say Ben Rogers. He's really started to develop and grow his game. He obviously supports with commentary a lot, which I think is helping with his confidence and his game understanding, more importantly. And that's why I look at the positivities in amongst the negatives of them being bottom of the standings, because this is a young squad you're watching. But we're seeing the rise of regional league clubs increase their levels. So come the playoffs on Saturday, June 6th, I don't think any of yourself, Hull and East Yorkshire, Nottingham Forest will want to be present at that day because it's the unknown. We don't know what teams are coming up through the regional leagues.
Yep. So now Altrincham just taking that kick in now. Hopefully they will be hoping to make this into a goal. But it's intercepted by keeper.
Jack Johnson with responsibility. Struggling to get any momentum. Altrincham next up in the 2:10 kickoff against Leeds Dynamos. That should be a tough test. If we're looking at Nottingham Forest, their next game of the day falls against GBG Saracens. So a huge affair at the bottom, or towards the bottom of the standings, as Finley Cooper just needs to be a little bit quicker, a little bit wider so he can get his front bumper on that ball. Just hesitated slightly. Anticipation is such a key aspect of the sport. Knowing where to position yourself, how to position yourself to best capitalise.
Mason, no, Johnson just trying to pull the defender out and win a corner.
Yeah.
And he did.
Interesting to see how they best utilise this corner kick. I think the first of the game. To be taken by James Simpson, who you've already referenced, can strike a ball really nicely. Fairly congested in the box. Maybe Jack Johnson over to Joey Levine, who's unopposed at the back post, but needs a deft angle touch from the central player, who finds the gap between Ben Rogers and Toby Maurice. You can see the frustration between the two, but that's what happened. You put your eggs in one basket, they can capitalise and punish you in another way. Brilliant opening goal. Altrincham 1, Nottingham Forest 0.
Beautiful set piece and gorgeous finish by Johnson. Nicely worked set piece. Forest will be hoping to come back because currently they're on a winless streak of 10 games, 8 losses and 2 draws. So they will be looking to get 3 points there, hopefully.
Yeah, it's a fairly damning stat, isn't it, Lucas? And
yeah,
when you're looking at the teams around them at the bottom of the standings, Hull and East Yorkshire have, I think, secured 9 points from a possible 15 from Game Weeks 3 into Game Weeks 4, which is pretty remarkable when you think they had no points in Game Weeks 1 and 2. You pick up really well-earned, gritty points against potential league favourites in Teesside Steel. Nottingham Forest need to win these games, or need to be competitive at the very least. And I think the most damning thing is that they're not attacking, they're not threatening the opposition goal, which is seeing games escape them, even when they're fairly competitive in the open play.
Yeah. And it's a shame, really, because Nottingham Forest are a staple of this league. They've been in this league for years, I believe.
I said a stat on the podcast, Game Week 3 recap of the championship, and I think to secure safety in the championship division, an average over the last 6 or so seasons, you've needed around 15 points, Lucas, from your 22 league games. Across the last 6 Nottingham Forest seasons in the National League, I think they average 5 points a season. So it shows they're well adrift of that safety. They've just had enough to see themselves progress through the playoffs. But as we've already referenced, a position in the playoff, even if you are an established National League side or have been for the last 5 or 6 years, does not guarantee you will have the quality and the ability to ensure that you're playing your football in the Championship next season. As Riley Priestley takes it in reverse, it just needed a little bit of a cuter touch to guide it down the line with him. The strong play from Ben Rogers, but almost pickpocketed by Joey Levine, who's deemed the aggressor. I think it was a fairly 50-50 battle. I would actually say Ben Rogers was the more aggressive of the two, but the decision goes in favour of Forest as they observe their first substitute of the game. Aston Walls, you can't really miss him. He's got neon orange hair. Finley Cooper comes off, couldn't really influence the game, but he's always typically the isolated winger up the court.
So now I kick it in Altrincham there.
James Simpson's doing a lot of the dirty work just to fragment any sort of rhythm or momentum from Forest. It's a frustrating performance, no doubt, for Forest so far. You can't really get out of second gear. But that being said, I wouldn't say Altrincham have either, but they have that goal to fall back on. And as we've already said, they're not really playing for anything this season as Joey Levine looks to inflict further damage back to Aston Walls. So there's a degree of comfort when you're referencing Altrincham. They don't need to throw caution to the wind a great deal as it ricochets towards Toby Maurice, out to James Simpson, putting together some nice passing patterns on the edge and within the Nottingham Forest box. But if you're Forest, you are fighting. And if you aren't able to pick up some momentum, this division could pass you by.
It's nice to see James Simpson start getting into coaching Altrincham, because at the regional level he coaches Bolton Boys, because that is James' boyhood club.
Is it?
Yeah. Just Priestley and Johnson battling here. The welter winner kicking for Forest.
Yeah, it's about making these opportunities count, isn't it? We saw Altrincham do that up the other end. As it goes across to Ben Rogers. Again, I'd like to see Aston Walls hugging this touchline. If he give himself, he was a metre more to the left, he would have had maybe a second or two more to react, to position himself to capitalise. I've referenced that before. There is a tendency for players, certainly players like Aston Walls, who played the majority, if not all of his football last season in the centre, to be drawn into the middle areas of the court rather than kind of maintaining that width. As Riley Priestley forces an effort at goal, it just guides past the post. It's the best opportunity they had, but never one that was going to trouble Jake Hudson.
Just softly into Johnson, so Johnson can take it into the dribble with Priestley did well to get it back to Rogers.
Jack Johnson, nice cute pass to Joey Levine, but a little bit disappointing on that crossfield ball. There was no one there to receive, so you probably want to see him take that in reverse and wait for some of his teammates to join him as Jack Johnson resumes the attack. And that, again, disappointing. Little lapses in concentration and trying to force the efforts.
They have time to be patient. They're 1-0 up. They're getting the free throw, so be patient. Just wait the game out, and it will eventually open up.
Jack Johnson over to take. Allows James Simpson to take responsibility now. We saw it, it's tried and tested. There's a very small gap. Maybe Jack Johnson has the screen. That was certainly the intent, but didn't have the power, so it just ricochets off the front of Jack Johnson's chair, but he traps it alongside Ben Rogers. From what I've seen from Jack Johnson this season, you back him in the dribble. He's going to look to utilise that skill set now, but James Simpson trapped. Not quite sure where to go to ensure Jack Johnson's allowed the space to roam.
Ben Rogers just doing everything in his power to drive it clear, but he wins his team a 2-on-1.
Yeah, he's a good player, isn't he? And
Yeah.
on that Game Week 3 recap podcast, he was our guest, so we had a chance to discuss and dissect some of this Nottingham Forest difficulty. And he spoke about confidence and momentum, but he also referenced that growing relationship that he has with Toby Maurice as kind of a double pivot, and how they're always trying to sing off the same song sheet. And he sees a lot of value in that continuity. It's going to be tested again here. This is almost carbon copy for Altringham's opener, James Simpson, but Riley Priestley now putting a bit of pressure on Jack Johnson, who's going to look to probably guide it towards the right of the goal. You can see the big gap. You can see Joey Levine there as well, as we are approaching the 18th minute. James Simpson into Jack Johnson, who just screens it over to Joey Levine.
I know Forest will win a kick in. I'm nothing really keen of that corner.
Stays in though. James Simpson leaves it. Flicked into the box. Two players, that's disappointing from Nottingham Forest. A lack of communication. They both swarmed around the same ball. Very fortunate to not have a 2-on-1 awarded against them. And Ben Rogers flicks it to Riley Priestley across the box, attacked by Aston Walls, and he fires it home. There will be question marks about that 2-on-1 that wasn't given, but Nottingham Forest capitalised brilliantly. Altrincham 1, Nottingham Forest 1.
Referee has given the goal, I believe. 1-1. Game on.
Yeah, Aston Walls with an immediate impact following his introduction to the play. And that's more like it, being more clinical in the final third, something that has escaped them in the season so far.
Talking about confidence, that will give them massive confidence going into half time and going into the second half. Like they can get the 3 points.
Yeah, definitely. And what a time to do it as well. Into the final minute of regulation time. And you say, beyond that opener, you would say beyond that opener, Nottingham Forest have looked fairly comfortable. And now they're knocking on the door for a second. As it falls to James Simpson. Ben Rogers so quick to come back. He does try and cover every inch of the court, doesn't he, Lucas?
Yeah, I would love to see a heat map.
Yeah, definitely. Again, just a miss hit there. Again, could have been a 2-on-1. And that signals the end of the first half. A brilliant first half at that. Altrincham took the lead early via a corner kick. James Simpson into Jack Johnson, so the two new boys for the Manchester-based side combining. And they looked fairly comfortable, but latterly in the first 20 minutes, Nottingham Forest had a little bit of success, capitalised on the miscommunication in the Altrincham defence to find the equaliser. Thank you to all that are tuning in, to myself and Lucas. We'll be back very shortly for the second half. Hello everyone and welcome back to the second half of Altrincham PFC against Nottingham Forest PFC, and you joining myself, Ryan Sipple, alongside Lucas Veza O'Brien for the action live. A brilliant first 20, hoping for more of the same. I can see a few switch-ups and changes that have happened in the break, so neither of these sides sitting still. They're looking to influence the results and get that 3 points. Give me your assessments, Lucas.
For Altrincham, it was a brilliant set-piece goal, and then Nottingham Forest just kept knocking on the door, and eventually they got their equaliser. So going into half-time, I would say Forest was the happier of the two sides.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily disagree, and that's probably why you're seeing Altrincham switch things up. And I don't think it's unfair to say that I think this is probably their strongest starting four. Would you agree? Jack Hassan, such a good player. Obviously, I watched the first 20 from the substitutes bench. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the whole division. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of impact he can have. And then when we're looking at Forest, they've brought off Ben Rogers, which is a really interesting call to bring on Gaz Meakin, don't you think?
Yeah, very interesting. We were discussing how influential and how strong he is in the first half. So to take him off, I thought it was a little bit strange.
Yeah, definitely. Excuse that graphic. It is Ben Rogers that has come off for Gary Meakin, as Jack Hassan now looking to make a quick impact. Just trying to assess this shape of Nottingham Forest. Obviously, it was a central pairing of Ben Rogers and Toby Maurice. Currently, it looks like Riley Priestley is filling in that role. I'm not sure if Gary Meakin is going to be occupying a position out wide, or maybe it's a fairly fluid system. As Jack Hassan patiently waits, there's no real options because of the angle. So yeah, probably sensible to do that when he's side the corner. You can probably recognise a familiar assistant referee at the bottom of your screen, just out of shot. One of the voices of Powerchair Football, Charlie McClellan. There's James Simpson. A very congested box. Jack Hassan, the only clear option on the far side. And it finds its way over to Jack Hassan, but he can't quite pull the trigger because it's really clever, brave positioning of Aston Walls. As Jack Johnson takes it in reverse. This can't play from Riley Priestley. James Simpson desperately trying to find a 3-metre circumference to occupy. That's something we've seen with Altrincham, is the fluidity of their tactical approach, their setup. At any one time, you could see any of those three players in the three outfield positions. Now Jack Hassan goes into the centre with Jack Johnson out wide. And I like that a lot. You're seeing constant rotations.
I do know James loves to play in the middle, so whenever he gets a chance, he will try and go in the middle.
It's good to see former Sale United or Altrincham player Tom Pettigrew in the comments, commending the efforts of the side and just commenting on how many players they've seen come and go in the last 2-3 seasons, yet always maintain that competitive level. Anyone that is a regular listener of my commentary or my podcast will know how much I love them as a team. Their levels never dip. They're always a solid squad, never really at threat of any of the jeopardy spots, relegation towards the bottom, but also never really challenging at the top. It's always so difficult when this constant merry-go-round of players. Obviously, within the last 6 months or 2-3 months, they've seen Mason Davies leave for Manchester United. In the summer, they saw David D join Manchester United, their sister club. As an indirect free kick now presents Altrincham with probably their most credible opportunity to score in this second half. Indirect, so it has to go via the chair of another player. Jack Hassan into Jack Johnson, just can't get that little cute touch to angle it behind Toby Maurice, but you can see the intent.
I believe the longer this goes, I believe Altrincham can get the winner, because I know James Simpson has history scoring late winners against Nottingham Forest. That this was in the 23-24 season, which he scored the winner to make City beat Forest 1-0.
Yeah, he has scored some incredibly important goals for Manchester City. Yet to get his first in the National League for Altrincham, so that's obviously high on the wish list. There's Riley Priestley just giving a little telling off there from the referee. He's saying a 2-on-1. It's fairly tight, but an indirect free kick nonetheless will be taken by Jack Hassan. Jack Hassan to take. It's a strange approach from Altrincham because James Simpson and Jack Johnson were very close to one another. Yeah, very, very strange approach. It was always going to be a 2-on-1 due to the starting position. So they're starting to show a few signs of complacency and lack of concentration.
Just Riley Priestley looking to get it on Hassan, but really struggling.
I will say that he has done a good job in the centre. The thing that's let him down, relatively speaking, is that positional awareness. We've seen 2 or 3 2-on-1s given against Forest because of his placement. Jack Hassan's just going to work away, just flicked out of his path by Riley Priestley. It's relentless from Altrincham.
If I was Forest now, I'd be looking to bring on Ben Rogers again so we can influence the game more.
Yeah, they've certainly been more defensively minded, I think, in this second half. But maybe they deem this setup more defensively sound and that a point is better than none. So maybe they're desperately trying to draw this game rather than try not to lose it. Because, as was the case in the first half, Jake Hudson, nothing more than a spectator on the far side. It's better. It's Aston Walls. Again, it's that placement and positioning. Aston Walls drawn into the centre, which completely restricts the options of Riley Priestley.
And now over Forest.
Forest have found the open. There's a gap that provided behind Jake Hudson. And out of nowhere, Lucas, Aston Walls has his second of the game.
Well, we're talking about influential. We need to give Walls some credit.
Yeah, definitely do. But that is always the difficulty when you're referencing a player like Jake Hudson being a spectator. The levels of concentration can dip. The alertness can decrease. And opposition can capitalise. And they have all come together to see Nottingham Forest come from a goal down to 2-1 up. And now it's game on. Will Forest look to do more of the same? Will they look to switch things up? Now it will be the test of if they deem this side or this starting four the most defensively sound. This could be a huge point for Nottingham Forest. 3 points, sorry. I'll show the live league standings at the conclusion of the game, but this does put Nottingham Forest onto 8 points from their 15 games, 1 behind Hull and 2 behind Manchester City. That is massive.
Joey Levine just replaced.
Over to Jack Hassan. He almost hesitated to engage it, and I'm not sure why. Just want to go back to watch it. Yeah, he kind of almost took 5-10% off his arcing advancement. They come away with a corner, but looked almost a certain equaliser. Another corner. Substitute sees James Simpson come off. Joey Levine re-enter. So Jack Johnson, set piece taker, attacked by Jack Hassan. Well positioned by Toby Maurice to clear it off the line.
They will be happy. Just a missing by Toby Maurice. But they will have it covered. Gets it out for a kicking.
We have played 31 minutes. As Jack Hassan well cleared by Riley Priestley. Did you say that they've been on a 10-game winless run, Nottingham Forest?
Yes,
eight losses, 2 draws. Could this break that curse? It's Jack Johnson once again with responsibility. Down into Jack Hassan.
Toby Maurice just happy to lock it up. Now is a goal kick. These final 8 minutes for Forest will all be all about game management.
Yeah, it definitely will. They've managed this second half absolutely brilliantly. As a matter of fact, the game as a whole, they want to ensure instances like that don't result in Altrincham success. I'm just trying to understand Pete Westmoreland's intent because he's communicating with Aston Walls, but I think the 2-on-1 has been awarded in favour of Forest. Quickly taken by Tate Maurice. Nice screen by Riley Priestley. Out to Aston Walls, looking for his hat-trick. Obviously, Aston Walls played game weeks 1 and 2, I believe, for Hull and East Yorkshire before rejoining his old club, Nottingham Forest. And you can see what it's done for them. It's injected a bit of quality, potency in the final third into Riley Priestley. There is no one out there. Such a strange decision to make. If you're going to attempt an effort, you need to entice it into your 180. If not, look to pick it off back over to where it came from. Gary Meakin has played a very isolated role, I would say, since his introduction at the half-time break, as Jack Hassan battling away with Riley Priestley, who's been fantastic, by the way, Lucas. It raised some question marks for us as to how he would perform that Ben Rodgers-esque role, but he done it brilliantly, and they're on track to get their first win in quite some time.
It will be quite refreshing for Forest, and hopefully give them the confidence they need as you reference about the Gameweek 3 recap podcast.
Yeah, exactly that. Nottingham Forest's sole win of the season came in game week 1 against Hull and East Yorkshire. That one finished 1-0. Riley Priestley was the goal scorer in that one, so it shows that he's got many strings to his bow. Out to Joey Levine. Toby Maurice just lets that roll out of play. It is going to be a corner ball. Scoreline from Court A, Nottinghamshire 2-0 up against GBG Saracens. Here on Court B, we're into the final 5 minutes, and Nottingham Forest lead Altrincham by 2-1.
These final 4 minutes will be a lot of pressure for Nottingham Forest, but they will be hoping to sustain the pressure.
Out to Joey Levine, fires up an effort, well blocked by Toby Maurice. Gary Meakin putting his body on the line to restrict Jack Hassan's options. One thing Ben did say in that podcast was how there's been almost like a psychological block for Forest. If and when they go a goal down, they struggle to summon that belief that they can compete, they can get back into it, they can take points. So more impressive than a potential 3 points here is the manner in which they've done it, don't you think, Lucas? Coming from a goal behind, having that belief in and amongst all that difficulty.
Yeah, that takes a lot. And every player on this pitch and on the bench should be extremely proud of themselves.
Again, it's a very narrow approach from Altrincham. Better now, but now they've introduced Jack Hassan, so they're throwing caution to the wind as Gary Meakin sensibly reads that from Jake Hudson. I'd like to see him lock it up a little bit better there. Now minutes away from a huge victory. If we're assessing other games for Nottingham Forest, in game week 4 they play GBG Saracens later today before playing at Norwich City and Teesside Steel. So some potentially really winnable games, certainly if they're taking some momentum into them. It's game week 5 that will be the challenge. League leaders, Nottinghamshire, Manchester United, Villa Rockets Lions, and then yourself, Manchester City, to conclude the 25-26 campaign. So you would say if they're going to claw their way from the jeopardy spots, they're going to have to do it probably in game week 4.
It's all about picking your battles at the bottom of the table.
We've said it so many times. Put your energy into the teams around you. Try and be competitive. As a really unfortunate ricochet off of Riley Priestley, and another ricochet. It's going from one chair to the other. Toby Maurice, laser concentration on that ball. It would be a very bitter pill to swallow if this 3 points escapes them. We would have said at the start of the game that a single point would register a very successful return. I don't think many would have given Nottingham Forest much hope of getting 3, but that looks like it will be the case as Toby Maurice alert. But Joey Levine deemed too aggressive in his pursuit of the equaliser. So Nottingham Forest can just relax, reset temporarily as we enter the final minute. Lucas, can you please give me your player of the match?
I've been thinking about this special, a special mention to Riley Priestley, but I want to give it to Toby Maurice.
Yeah, I agree completely. He's probably going to be tested one more time here. Set piece from Jake Hudson, pushed over to Daniel Holt via Jack Kassam, but well dealt with by Riley Priestley. Toby Maurice has been brilliant. It's that focus, that concentration, not letting his head dip despite that early opener from Jack Johnson. And now we are into additional time. We've had a few stoppages, a few 2-on-1s, so maybe a minute, 90 seconds over. But I think Forest will be on course for their first win since October. I think that's when the season started. But again, lapses in concentration. Aston Walls completely blindsided as to the ball's placement and his teammates. So now approaching a minute over the 20 as Jack Hassan cushions it into the player of the match. And Nottingham Forest have that win, and that is absolutely huge. And you have to say, Lucas, they didn't let their heads drop after going 1 goal down. They got stuck in and they were clinical, and that's something that they haven't been so far this season, clinical in the final third.
I'm really impressed with them.
And that's the live league standings up. You can see what it does for them. Nottingham Forest up to 8 points from their 15 games, 1 behind Hull and East Yorkshire, 2 behind Manchester City, and 4 behind GBG Saracens, who they play tomorrow. For Altrincham, it does keep them in the middle of that pack. Not able to leapfrog Leeds Dynamos, but as we've already prefaced, there's not a great deal to play for in terms of league placement standings. They'll look to refine and test different setups and go again next season. Thank you to all that have tuned in, to myself and Lucas. Hope you can join us for more games of Game Week 4 of the 25-26 Slater and Gordon Championship.
Hello and welcome to the Slater and Gordon Championship weekend number 4. We are here. My name is Adam Sevenoaks and I am joined by Fred Boddy for Man City versus Norwich. How are you, Fred?
Good, thank you. Just come off of our last game with the 2-0 loss, but very satisfied with how we played.
Yes, it was a very good game against a tough Nottinghamshire team who are top of the league. So it was definitely a good game.
I'm just going to go through the lineups right now. So we've got number 9, Karim Ali. We have number 17, Seb Spink. We have number 20, Oscar Spink. Number 34, Jack Humphreys. And we've got Lucas Veza O'Brien. And for Norwich City, we have, we have Hannah Murgatroyd, Tom Burnett, Johan George, Jack Fulcher, Jacob Edwards, Mike Coleman and Will Hagg.
So, and our central referee is Graham Mulgrew for this game. So the teams are just warming up and we've got a few stats for you. Man City have never won this fixture yet. So they played 4 times before and it's an accurate score of 8-1 to Norwich. And also no one ever has scored a hat-trick. So do you think you might see one today, Fred?
We may see one today. I've seen how Man City play and they have very good strikes on them. Obviously Lucas being the top goal scorer this season, I believe, for Manchester City.
Yeah. Yes. And when they can hit the ball, it can be good goals.
And the last time these two teams played, Norwich won 2-1, but they came back from being 1-0 down due to a Jack Humphreys goal.
Yep, and this is Norwich's first game, but Man City had a game this morning and they got a 0-0 draw against Teesside. It still means Teesside's unbeaten streak continues, but that's a really good point for City there. And
must be in the high, maybe low 30s now of unbeaten games for Teesside.
Yeah, I believe it's 31 games now they're unbeaten at.
Insane.
And obviously Man City have the new signing of Jack Humphreys that transferred over from Leeds in the winter window. But they are without Jay Pixton this weekend. So yeah, let's see. The referee's in the centre with the 2 captains. And see who gets kick-off. It looks like Norwich get the kick-off. So the Norwich starting 11 is, you've got Mike Coleman in the middle, Hannah Murgatroyd in goal, Tom Burnett and Johan George at the wings. And then for City, they've got Karim Ali on one wing, Lucas Veza O'Brien on the other, Oscar Spink in goal, and Jack Humphreys in the middle. So we're just about to wait for the referee to start the game.
Hopefully be a good one, like the last fixture between the two.
Yes. What's your score prediction for this?
I'm going to go with a Norwich win, but I think it will only be 2-1, like last time.
I have a feeling Man City might get a draw out of this game, so I think it will be a draw.
Well, Man City, obviously, in the bottom half of the table, they like the points more than Norwich.
Yeah.
However, Norwich would love the points for promotion.
Yep. Yep, so Jack Humphreys and Mike Coleman are in a battle at the minute. So it's really good. They're 2 of the best dribblers in the game. That's love over to Tom Burnett. And that will be a Norwich kick-in.
Coleman and Humphreys are almost impossible to break down. I've played them a few times now.
Yeah.
And every time I play them, I just can't get past. And they're always very aggressive.
Yeah. They got lots of experience between them. So Coleman's in the gap between Jack Humphreys and Karim Ali. Tom Burnett tries to get through the gap, but takes a deflection off Humphreys' chair. But then it goes out for another Norwich kick-in. Coleman. Down the line to Burnett. Tries to go across. Gets trapped in the gap between Humphreys and Ali.
Great defending on the edge of the box here.
Yeah.
And Humphreys takes it out. Ali.
You're a bit careful. Oh, no, he's in the box, so it's fine.